So welcome back to our podcast. Today we have on
Phoenix. I'm Phoenix. Nice to meet you.
I'm Billy.
Phoenix. What do you do?
I'm a realtor and an Airbnb host.
Oh, okay. And then Billy.
I'm a financial consultant.
Cool. So, and I'm a realtor, Thomas Fang. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how you guys got into the business. So, Billy, how long have you been a financial consultant?
Yeah, I've been a financial consultant at Arcshire Financial I just hit my 10-year anniversary this year.
Oh, wow.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Okay. And how did you get into that industry?
It was a very interesting transition. So I used to work as a tutor for kids with autism, and I knew that I didn't want to stay in that industry for a long time. Mm-hmm. So I got into entrepreneurship. Back then I worked at a network marketing company that sold like cell phone plans and things like that, and I fell flat on my face on there. And my mentor at that business basically introduced me to the CEO of the financial firm. Back then they were just getting started, and I was maybe one of the first 30 to 50 agents in the company, and I saw the vision of who he was and what he saw the company to be, and I was just like, I'm following you to the ends of the earth.
Gotcha. Okay. And then you've been there for 10 years now?
Yep.
Got it. Okay. And then what about you, Phoenix?
I was a real estate assistant for several years, and then I've been a realtor for like about 3 years now.
Okay.
And then Airbnb hosting, I've been doing it for 12 years.
And then tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, so I started actually house hacking when it wasn't even a term, and then when I purchased my property, I just decided to rent out like one of the bedroom downstairs, and then it was really profitable. It covered the mortgage, so then I just kept doing that repeatedly again and again. Mm-hmm.
Got it. So you just took something that worked and then you multiplied it a little bit.
Yes.
Okay, very cool. So today we're going to be talking about some real estate topics, some financial topics. So Billy, you brought one up of
401ks?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, 401ks, a lot of people think it's like the end-all cure-all for retirement, and that's usually not the case anymore, because with how 401ks work, it's you don't pay taxes today and you defer your taxes for down the road. And so what happens there is if you have a country that owes $37 trillion in national debt, tax rates are probably going to have to go up. So it does not make sense anymore to defer all your taxes for a future date if taxes have to go up in the future.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then, so you work with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so what is your clientele kind of? Like,
yeah. So I
who do you
work
help
with
out?
I work with everyone. Right now I'm working with a lot of content creators
Okay.
and models and adult content creators.
Okay.
Okay.
And that is kind of where you specialize, but do you work with other people as well?
Yeah, I work with everyone.
Okay,
Yep.
gotcha. And then, what are people doing for retirement that you see right now?
Not enough.
Not enough? Okay.
Most people only know of maybe like one or two things, and they go all in on it.
Uh-huh.
And that's usually, obviously like never put all your eggs in one basket, right?
Yeah.
So when you're looking at a person's financial plan, it's not just retirement. There's also, well, what about the mortgage? What about if something were to happen to you and you get sick? What about, college planning for the kids? So I look at all of that, and I look at what the person wants to do with their financial goals,
Okay.
and I create a plan that makes the most sense for their individual needs.
Got it. Okay. So it depends on how old they are, where they are in life, things like that?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then, obviously this is a very general conversation, but what do you recommend people do?
Yeah, so right now with everything going on in the economy, people should think more about asset protection, because if you can make a lot of money doing what it is that you want to do, your goal is to protect everything that you're building. Because if you make a lot of money and you spend a lot of money, you're broke on a higher level. So the idea is that you want to make a lot of money and keep the money that you're making and multiply it. So that way you can have true financial freedom.
Okay. Awesome. So would you recommend people buy a lot of assets?
depends on the type of assets, right?
Okay.
Because if a person is buying a bunch of houses that they know they can't afford, then now they're over leveraged,
Right.
and they can easily get punched in the face when things go sideways.
Okay.
Like if someone loses a job,
Yeah.
right? Because then that means that person can no longer pay their mortgage.
Right.
So that's one thing. Understanding what assets make the most sense for that individual at that particular time, and can we over time increase the contribution or add more to the foundation to it.
Got it. We're actually having a seminar April 26th, and it's going to be during lunchtime. I think it's from 11 to 1. Phoenix, Billy, and I will be on that as well. If you guys are free, feel free to stop by, register for that. So Phoenix, what have you been doing these years in terms of real estate and Airbnb?
Yeah, so how I started doing Airbnb was like I stayed at somebody's else Airbnb and they rented out a room to me. And then I started investing in real estate, and then I started doing like multiplying it. And when everyone knew that I was doing it, they were like, hey, can you help me co-host? So I co-hosted like up to almost 100 listings at one point. And then I've been seeing like the Airbnb market kind of slowing down. So we always did midterm rental and a little bit of short-term rental, and now we're pivoting more to long-term rental. But like to touch base on what Billy was saying, so if the tenant couldn't pay rent, or you couldn't pay your mortgage, then you could be over leveraged and screwed.
Right.
So you have to be finding a balance and not over leveraging, but also finding tenants that are really qualified, right? So in case anything ever happens, that you have a safety net and that they can pay their rent. And then at one point I started like renovating my house, and then I realized like, hey, the equity went up. So I talked to a lender, and then I actually didn't put 20% down payment. I only put like 10% down payment. And then later on, when I was able to either HELOC, take out home equity line, or cash out refinance, or you could just refinance it without taking any money out, and then you are able to reduce your or get rid of this private mortgage insurance that you have to pay. Yeah.
So how long ago was that where you first stayed at an Airbnb, and then how long have you been doing
So I stayed at Airbnb like 13 years ago, and I've been running it for about 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then can you share with our viewers what co-hosting is?
So co-hosting is when it's not your house, but you basically can create an account, and then later on you can link it to your own account, and you can manage. It's like property management, but it's not. You're managing their property through the Airbnb platform.
Is it kind of like Airbnb Arbitrage?
Airbnb Arbitrage is when you rent out their place, and then you take on a lease, and you take all the liability, and you pay the rent, and then whatever's left over, you would take that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's different.
Okay. And then what are the benefits and negatives of doing short-term, midterm, and long-term rental?
So for short-term rental, the occupancy rate is lower. So when you want like your home to be fully booked, which is like up to 80 to 90% is best. That's for a midterm rental. And a short-term rental, you might get really high like whole home rental, like at like $600 a night, or like if it's Palm Spring Coachella weekend, you can get like thousands of dollars a night. But then you're just empty the whole like other parts of the year. So you have to like short-term rental is mostly for vacation, beach houses, Coachella, EDC, Vegas. Like you want to look for the vacation rentals, and then midterm rental is where travel nurses, corporate people, corporate rentals, lawyers, people that are transitioning to a new job, they're staying there.
I see. Okay. Very cool. All right. So in the Bay Area, housing has increased this year versus last year, and it's kind of up 25 to 50%.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So there is a lot of inventory on the market, and the reason that is because last year people were trying to wait out the interest rates. They thought that it might drop in the future. This year, they have kind of understood that rates are kind of where they are. They might drop, but I don't think it's going to go back down to the 3%.
That's probably not going to happen anymore.
Yeah, it's around 6.5% right now, and the lowest that I think it could go is down to 5%. So we're seeing a lot of inventory now. The median price just reached 2.2 in San Mateo County, 2 million in Santa Clara County, 1.6 million in SF, 1.3 million in Alameda, and 841 in Contra Costa. So, what we've been seeing in the market is there's still a lot of buyers out there, and that's because interest rates have kind of dropped. Now, there are a lot of buyers on the sidelines. So during our open houses, we've been getting really good traffic. But there's more buyers on the sidelines because of the economy, politics, and also interest rate. At the lower end, that's why they're kind of holding off, is the interest rate. At the higher end, it's the economy and politics. So, I know you do real estate as well,
Right.
Phoenix. Have you been working with some buyers and sellers this year or last year? And then does this make sense to you? Kind of what are you seeing in the market?
Yeah, so I see that because of the tariffs tax recently, and even before that, the stock market dropped, right?
Right.
So a lot of people are like, oh, like a lot of my buyers are afraid. They're like, we don't know how it's going to be. That's where I'm going to get my down payment. They don't know Billy yet. So at that point, it's like they're really afraid of like things happening.
Yes.
Like, so they're like, I'm holding off.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Billy, maybe you don't do as much real estate, but you could advise your clients to maybe get into real estate. So kind of how has that conversation been going last year and then this year?
Yeah,
if any at all.
So a lot of the clients that I work with, they want to get into real estate,
Okay.
but I look at their finances and I'm like, you're not quite ready for that just yet. Just because if you can't even save enough for a down payment or a mortgage, then if one sneeze happens and your income goes away, you're in the hole, right? So I usually tell my clients that if they are really planning to purchase a property, depending on where they are, if they're in the Bay Area, then I'd say you probably need at least 150 in the war chest to play around with before you can say I want to buy a house out here. Now if they're in the Midwest or other places in the South or something like that, obviously the amounts are different. But the main thing is I always want to make sure that my clients have 3 to 6 months worth of emergency funds before taking on things like an opportunity fund. So what I call an opportunity fund would be like if they want to buy a house, if they want to buy a business, things that can go up and down, things where they can potentially lose money if something goes wrong. I want to make sure they have their emergency foundations in place first before they dive into things like real estate or trading stocks, trading crypto and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Where are most of your clients based out of?
They're all over the place. A lot of my clients are in the Midwest. I'm starting to work with a lot of people in like the LA area to the demographic of clients I work with. Like Vegas or some of them are in Miami.
Sounds like all over.
All over
United
the place.
States.
Yeah, I'm licensed in like 38 states.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking about also investing outside of California. And, we're talking a little bit about that. And I think outside of California would be better for investments. But you just got to deal with other stuff too.
You got to do a lot of property management, I feel.
Right,
Yeah.
yes.
Because one of the worst things that can happen is if you hire a property manager and they're skimming off the top of your income and you got to go out there and you see that they didn't fix anything.
Yeah.
That's a big issue.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's true.
So it is important to make trips out there as well.
Oh yeah, you gotta keep your thumb on the pulse of your business. It's your baby essentially, right?
Yep.
So generally speaking, I like to see that if my clients are investing in out-of-state properties, they're like maybe either an hour or two drive away or like one short flight away.
Yeah.
So like for people in California, maybe invest in like, I don't know, Utah or Vegas or somewhere where it's super close by.
Yeah.
Because if you invest in, let's say,
Nebraska or whatever. Yeah.
or like, Connecticut or something like that, now you have a whole issue of flying across the country to figure out if that person is really doing their job.
Right.
Yeah.
I was actually at a real estate investor group, not conventions, more like a meetup.
Right.
Okay.
This guy invested in properties in Detroit. And
My friend actually did that too.
Yeah.
Back in
A lot of
2008.
people too.
Detroit was like,
It was
I
like
think it was like
$10,000.
Yeah.
for like 3 houses.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they sold it for like $200,000 to $300,000.
Oh
which,
wow.
Which is crazy game.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the guy that I was talking to, He said that the investor that wanted to purchase the property from him, when he went to that location, the house was gone.
Oh my gosh.
So he was like, "What do you mean the house is gone?"
Yeah.
Oh.
The government or the local government put the house on like stilts or whatever
What?
and wheeled the house away.
What?
So
He didn't even know?
he didn't know. So
That's
when the
crazy.
guy got there, it was just an empty lot
Oh,
where the
wow.
house was supposed to be.
That's really
Yeah.
crazy.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's another potential risk
Yeah.
of
Yes.
investing in a place where you don't visit often.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Dang.
Phoenix, can you tell us a little bit about your journey? I know you own a couple properties
Yes.
and you've been renting that out.
Yep.
You know, so let's say someone watching wants to get into co-hosting or renting out their place. What are some things that you've learned along your journey?
I'm actually more curious about Billy's journey
Okay.
and his recommendations
Yeah.
for financial protection and asset
Make sure
protection.
you come check out our seminar
Yeah.
if you're also interested in that.
Yep.
But go ahead.
But yeah, so I would say if somebody wants to get into real estate investment, they do need, like Billy said, you do need a large down payment, right? At least depending on which cities. California is extremely expensive. You do want at least 10 to 15% down payment.
Right.
And then also because of the interest rate being so high, I can't really speak for now, but before it was like I got houses at 2.85 to 3%, 3.75%, and I was already complaining back then, like how expensive is this? Why is the interest rate going
Yeah.
up? But the lower the interest rate, it's like everybody can call themselves a real estate investor because it's so easy to just buy something low interest and then you feel like you're making a lot, right?
Right.
So for certain areas, even midterm rentals. By certain areas, I would say they can gross at that point. Like at one point, it was like during the summer, I was grossing like $12,000 a month.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah, for like just 4 bedrooms. So it's pretty good. So at that point, I felt like I was just traveling around the world. I don't really have to like work that hard. But if you do want to get into real estate investing now, you have to probably buy a cheaper property
Right.
for yourself to cash flow. Cash flow is everything. Cash is king. So you definitely want something less risky and like not try to like if you want to get into co-hosting, that's not really that risky because you're just co-hosting other people's properties. So you just have to do a really good job, maximize the occupancy.
Right.
And then short-term rental for certain cities, certain areas are really good. You have to do market research. You can't just buy something and expect it to make money
Right.
because some people do lose money.
Yeah.
How do you go about doing the marketing for finding the right type of clients?
There's different websites that you can pay for and then you can like analyze, or some people just go on Airbnb and look at, it's almost like you're looking at a hotel website. You can see how much people are booked out and how much they're charging per night, and you can just be competitive and then make sure like the furnitures are nice and like, but not too expensive because then that cuts into your upfront costs. You don't want to like overspend too much, and then but you also don't want to be too cheap and where everyone's like, I don't want to stay there, it looks ghetto.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
There needs to be, I think, something nearby
Yeah.
that draws out people.
Yeah, so if
Yeah.
there's like a university or like jobs, hospitals, like for travel nurses, they travel
Right.
around the world, traveling physical therapists, traveling workers, even like one of my house that was in Martinez before, it was like near a refinery and there's tons of refinery workers, tons of like
I see.
everybody, or Walnut Creek, right? Then there's something there, like there needs to be jobs
Yeah.
for midterm rentals.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Because typically those contracts are like 3 to 4 months. Or
Yeah,
something
and they
like
can
that,
extend to
Right.
like 1 year.
Yeah.
So some people they stay for 3 to 6 to 12 months. And at one point there was a guy, I was like, there's no more space for you because it was a refinery. Like they needed a ton of people to come. Like I think the people in California were on strike, so they were bringing people in from other states.
wow.
And then the guy was like, hey, I would just put a tent back there in your backyard. Is it cool?
Oh
and I
my
was like,
God.
no, I'm good. He was like, I'll pay you like $40 a night though. Or like, hey, I see a closet. Can I stay here? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want, because they get a stipend and they want to they want to keep all their stipend
Yeah.
money. So they're like, I'm willing to stay in the closet. I'll pay you like $40 a night. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Wow.
Hey, if you sleep in a bathtub and you're good with that,
Yeah.
by all
Yeah.
means.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I
because they
think
get
you're
to
gonna
keep the
definitely
living
have
costs.
some neck pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sleep in a bathtub.
right. But you'll save a lot of your stipend money.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So lately, I've been trying to get Phoenix and Billy out onto the golf course.
Yes.
Yes, and we still haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
We're still trying. But have you played golf before, Phoenix?
Yes, I've played golf. I like to
Okay.
go Top Golf. Does that count?
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
No, that doesn't count.
Yeah,
but it's still
I
cool.
do play golf, and
Yes.
then just like at the small area
Uh-huh.
outside, and then also driving range.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Billy?
The golfiest golf I've ever played is like mini putt.
Yeah.
Okay.
We gotta get
I
him
love
out.
mini golf too.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of like just putting.
Yeah.
Putting is
It's
really
not easy.
how you score in golf.
Right.
So something that's happening in the Bay Area is a golf course is prepping for wide range revamp and modernization. So this is going to be La Rinconada Country Club, and it's in line for a major revamp. They're going to be revamping the entire golf course, and it's really for water efficiency. So it's going to cost around $19 million, and it's going to reduce the water to 30 to 40% of what they're using right now.
Oh, okay.
So, and I guess that is really important, just how much water these places use, because it is a huge amount.
Yeah.
Those places stay green all year round.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I guess I
So,
never thought about it.
I'm playing some golf this weekend as well. It's for a friend's birthday, so I'm pretty excited about that. But what would you say you're most scared of with golf?
Oh, that it would like the golf ball would hit my car if it's like parked too close.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
that happened to
we'll
my friend
remember
before.
not to park.
Yeah, don't
next
park
to
too
it.
close to
Yep.
the parking lot. Yep.
Okay. And then what about you, Billy?
I have no idea what to expect. I've
Yeah,
never
we
played
gotta
golf
get about it,
before.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
We gotta talk business and play golf at the same
But
time.
I hear golf is like the best place to talk shop with
Yes.
everybody there.
Yes.
It's just a good place to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then stuff just happens from it. You don't really talk shop per se, but it deepens the connection
Yeah.
with people, and business does come out
If they
of
see that you could drive, like hit the ball really far, they're like, "Wow, that's awesome. We should do business with this guy. He's accurate and concise."
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
So
we
that's-
could go play pickleball. If,
I'll
if
just be out
nobody-
there like
So I've
making
never played
holes.
pickleball.
Yeah. We
Pickleball's
might
cool.
host. We want to host.
So
it.
I got invited to a pickleball event
Okay.
by one of my friends. He is a part owner of one of the teams out in the Bay Area.
Nice.
Oh.
So that event that he invited me to, Jeremy Lin was
Oh,
playing there.
wow.
So I got a chance
Yes.
to kind of see how the game is actually
Yeah.
played.
How big was it?
It
Like,
was
how many people?
it was in like Alameda.
Nice.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think it's like a gym, and it used to be like a tennis court kind of
Yeah.
thing, and they just revamped everything to
Yep.
to
Wow.
be
They've
pickleball.
been doing that
Yeah.
at a couple of places. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we went there, and my wife and I went to that event. We looked at it, and we're like, we want to play this.
Yeah.
Nice.
It was fun because my wife loves badminton, and
Yeah.
she used to play tennis as
Similar,
well.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's so similar,
Yes.
and I'm
I
always
also
down
played
to try
tennis
it
as a
out.
kid.
Nice.
I ran around.
Yeah, it's
I
a
didn't.
lot
I
of
never
running.
really played sports. I'm not a sports
Okay,
guy.
gotcha.
Yeah. So, like hobby wise, I did ROTC flag
Oh,
team
yes.
training kind of
Okay,
thing,
I see.
and after that, I did like close up magic. So.
Oh
Nice.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. We
yeah.
love his magic.
Ellie does really cool magic.
Yeah,
actually.
very cool.
Wait, we should have told you to bring something.
No, no.
That would be great for the podcast. Wait, so how did you get into magic? At what age did you get into magic?
So I got into magic when I was 7, and this is like complete sidebar from
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
sports and stuff.
Right.
I was just a nerd.
Okay, yeah.
So I got into magic when I was 17 years old. Prior to that hobby, I used to do hip hop.
Oh wow.
So after I
That's
finished,
sport.
What do you mean you used to do hip hop?
I used to write.
Okay,
Oh.
very cool.
So we had a whole like record release party back in the day, and
okay.
after that, it was I felt like it wasn't my time
Uh-huh.
because it was I think really around like when gin was popping off.
Yeah, I remember Jen.
Yeah.
106 and Park.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dumbfounded was killing it back
Uh-huh,
then.
yeah.
And so there wasn't too many of heroes that I could look up to.
But there were some.
But there were some.
There were some.
And
yeah.
so I didn't feel like I was good enough to get to that level.
Uh-huh.
So I wanted to be in show business somehow.
Mm.
So my mom took me on a vacation to Las Vegas when I was like maybe 15, 16. And I saw a magic show.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think I could do this.
Yeah.
So I got myself like
It's
a
hard, though.
starter book
Yeah.
and a couple DVDs.
Oh my
and
God,
I
you
started-
DIY. You learned it yourself.
I learned it
Yeah.
myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
We didn't have YouTube back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
had to buy all
Yeah.
this.
I had to look at all the previews
Yeah.
on YouTube and
Yeah.
buy a DVD
Yeah.
to
And
learn.
analyze it and
Yep.
practice
Yeah.
it.
Practice it.
Oh
Yep.
wow. I thought somebody taught you.
I mean, I've had mentors as
Right.
I went through
Yeah.
my phases, but for the most part, in the beginning, I learned a lot. Shout outs to Joe at Misdirections.
Oh, nice.
Okay, very cool.
That's cool.
So you haven't played pickleball.
No.
Have you played racket sports before?
Yeah, tennis
Okay.
and like badminton.
Badminton, yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
badminton.
right, right.
Yeah.
So I think pickleball is kind of like that.
Yeah.
Like
It's
a
a blend.
slower version.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
ping pong. I played ping pong. Yeah.
I'm terrible at ping pong. My reaction time.
Then we need to
just
play
'cause
and
the,
then bet.
the thing is so small.
Yeah.
My reactions are so small.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't do
it's
that.
really small.
Yeah.
Yep. But you
So-
play beer pong though.
Yes, I do play beer pong.
Competitively.
But that's completely different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do some
so,
trick shots.
There's actually a new program out there for Bay Area home buyers that will offer $200,000 towards your down payment.
Woo!
Oh,
$200,000 is
Yeah,
a lot of
that's a
money
lot.
towards your down payment.
yeah.
So it is only available
That is really
in
cool.
Alameda County and Contra Costa County.
Okay, that's still
and-
good.
That's not a bad place
Yeah, it's
to have a
cheap.
starter home. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's really cheap. Well, back then.
Sure.
But still, it's still cheap in the Bay Area, and you
Yes.
can still
Cheapish.
commute to work, commute to
Yeah.
business meetings. Yeah.
Well, it's cheap for a first house,
right,
Mm-hmm.
right.
and it's just to get your foot in the door because
Yeah,
I always tell my clients that when you buy your first house,
Yeah.
you are the most broke
Yeah.
because you don't own a house.
Yeah.
Right? Buying that first house is always the hardest
Yeah.
because you just need to have that lump sum.
Yep.
Once you get into a home, you build equity,
Mhm.
then you're going to have a lot of money to put into your next home
Yep.
and your next home.
Once you
because,
build enough equity.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're very lucky in the Bay Area that
Yeah.
homes appreciate over here.
yeah,
So it's very different than the rest of the country, or I would say 50% of the country, because
true.
you buy a home for $300,000 in 30 years, it's worth like $350,000 maybe.
Yeah.
So they just don't get appreciation out there.
Yeah,
So this program
That's
is going to
very
open
true.
up in May, which is next month, so it's coming up. And you just need to apply, take a class. There are income limits, of course. Income limits for Alameda County are under 84,000, and for Alameda,
we don't qualify.
Yeah, we
it's
don't qualify.
120.
Bruh.
So that's
But hey,
the
some
hard
people
part.
do.
That's the hard part.
Yeah.
I haven't met a buyer that qualifies before.
Yeah, yeah, same here.
So that's the really
It's a
hard
trick.
part, but
Like, how do you find someone that
Yeah.
falls into like a category of making 50 to 70 grand
But
in the
then
Bay
make-
Area?
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how do you survive?
yes, so that's really tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is really cool that they have programs available
Yeah.
for people. They want people to get into homes.
Now, with those programs, can like multiple people within the family go in at it to kind of
I
like?
believe so. Yes, yes. And then so how the program makes money is it's down payment assistance. So they
Right.
share in the equity. So they will get paid out when you sell the home or refinance it. So that's how the payment makes money, and they replenish their funds to be able to help more people in the future.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I'm actually working with a client right now that bought their property this way. They used a program, a shared equity program, and so it was really good. And then when we sell his place, I think he needs to pay back like 14% of the equity, which is not bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it
if it
helps
gets you
us
into
to-
a house,
it gets you into
yeah.
a
Yeah.
house. Yeah.
He can probably make a lot more.
Correct. Yes. Are there any other topics that you guys wanted to talk about, touch on?
Yeah, I wanted to hear a little bit more from Billy about like recommendations for people that are like, they're working their full-time job, and how do they like get to retirement, and like,
Yes.
and I know you did like some universal plan, so can you tell me a little bit more about that too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when people are working their jobs, generally speaking, if the company is not like, nickel and diming their employees, they'll get like a 401k plan, which is fine if they get a company match to go with it. My recommendation there is never go above and beyond what the company gives you, because then if, let's say you put in, or the company gives you 5%, you put in 5%, you just doubled your money with free money, and there's no better money than free money.
Right.
The problem is if you overfund it, now you've put yourself in a position where if the market goes down, you lose more of your own money versus the play money that the company gave you. So reallocate anything above and beyond that into something where you have more control over. Because if, let's say, you have a 401k and that's the only thing you have, and I'll bring it back to like 2008. I was in high school at that time, and I remember that year a lot of my teachers, their hair just got extra gray.
Yeah.
And so imagine working somewhere for 30 plus years of your life,
minimum.
and on the day that you want to retire and the market takes a dump, you lose 30 to 40% of your entire portfolio. Unfortunately, guess what? You got to go back to work, right? So that's how a lot of people end up getting punched in the face from just solely investing into 401ks. So I always talk about diversification. So have the 401k. It's great if you get the company match. Any money above and beyond that person would want to invest, basically redirected towards things like an indexing strategy.
Right.
Cash value life insurance is also really good. Roth IRAs. Roth IRAs, I would generally just say if you enjoy trading stocks or buying certain stocks, then by all means have that. Typically speaking, if you have a Roth IRA, it's not going to yield that much retirement income because you're really only supposed to take out 3 to 4% per year. So even if you had $1 million in a Roth IRA, you're really getting like $35,000 to $40,000 income. Tax free, it's great, but it's not going to be enough to replace a lot of things.
Okay.
So having multiple retirement buckets, different types of accounts that do different things, it allows for you to have you can cover each other's backs for each of the drawbacks of the independent plans.
So what are the categories?
So there's
401k.
So there's taxable accounts,
Okay.
not tax deferred accounts,
Okay.
and non-taxable or tax-free accounts. The idea there is that you want to shuffle your assets into places where it lowers your taxes to the lowest possible. And you can't do that with just having a 401k because by the time you get to retirement age, you're going to be taxed out the wazoo. If you only have, taxable accounts like brokerage accounts and things like that, each year that you're gaining, appreciation in your plans, you still got to pay taxes on that. So who knows what tax rate's going to be. So you have to be very strategic on how you plan out your assets so that you have the most amount of tax benefits possible.
Wow.
And then each of those categories, can you give us like one or two examples?
Yeah. So a taxable account would be like a brokerage account, a high yield savings account. If you have too much money in there and you're earning a lot of interest, the bank will send you a 1099 form for you to pay taxes on that. Tax deferred account, that's where most people are having most of their money. 401ks, IRAs, 403bs, SEP IRAs, 457 plans, TSPs, basically anything with a number and a letter attached to it that's kind of confusing would fall under that particular category. And then you have the tax-free plans, which is anything Roth. There's an abbreviation of Roth in front of it. Cash value life insurance. And if you truly want to consider bonds, like municipal bonds, they can technically be tax-free, but there's individual states have little fine print on what kind of taxes are tagged onto that. So I don't technically consider those tax-free because if it's tax-free, it has to be completely tax-free.
And then, so what category do you see people not investing enough in?
Tax-free.
Tax-free.
Yeah.
And then why are people not investing in that enough? Is it because it's hard to get into? Is it because they don't know about it?
It's lack of education.
Okay.
Most people know the Roth IRA, which is fine and dandy.
Yeah.
But with a Roth IRA, there's limits to how much you can put into it per
Right.
year. There's limits to how much income you make before you can no longer put money in. And if you are doing things like backdoor Roths, which is also a good strategy to have, that means you need to have cash on hand to pay all the conversion taxes. And most people don't have 10, 15, 20 grand to just be like, hey, here's my taxes. So understanding what vehicles are available and how to use it, at what point to use it, is very, very important.
I see. Okay.
So what recommendations do you have for retirement for people in general?
So retirement, when you're at retirement age, you want to have more tax-free money than not, because you're at an age where you can not afford to not have money,
Right.
So if you're paying a whole bunch of money to Uncle Sam, then that's less for you to eat off of. And the problem there is that most people don't realize that their Social Security money can be taxable if they take too much money out from their 401k, or if they have like taxable income coming in. So that's what's called provisional income. So provisional income is the type of income that the IRS tracks to determine whether or not your Social Security gets taxed. And they can tax you up to like 50% of your Social Security.
wow.
Wow, that's a lot.
So understanding where your money's at, how it's functioning, what kind of plan it is, and then what you can do to reallocate and shuffle things around and roll over, roll out, whatever the case may be.
Wow.
So that's why it's important to look at the full picture of what it is a person needs. I don't just give blanket statement type of plans, because it just doesn't work for everyone. So like even when there's a bunch of people on social media that say, oh, just max fund your Roth IRA, and they don't go into the nuances of it. Or max fund, this index universal life strategy, and they don't have anything else.
Yeah.
And IULs are great, but if you don't know how to structure it or how it functions properly, it can become a very expensive life insurance plan. So the idea there is that you have to understand how everything works.
Yeah.
If you're not the architect of your own financial freedom, unfortunately, there's going to be people, and people can be the government, people can be, malicious people that are, scamming or scheming or whatever the case may be. And there's going to be people out there trying to stick their hands into your cookie jars.
Yeah. I think one thing that I like about Billy is that, like, before I met Billy, I just had term insurance, and that was just my friend who had a license for like less than a year. And then after that, she's like, you know what? I quit being an insurance agent. So I think a lot of people like have a high turnover, but Billy's been in the industry for like over 10 years, right? So I think that's really rare to see. And then it seemed like he does more individualized plan based on what you want in the future. So I like that. Yeah, because other people are like, I'm just going to sell you a plan. Sell you something.
And I'm not going to say term plans are bad by any means.
Right.
Because if you're combining it with things like, let's say, real estate, right? If you get a term plan, you buy a house, chances are 30-year mortgage, 30-year term. So if something happens to you in that duration of time, then the house can be taken care of. Now, that's also important to understand, like, if you're adequately covered. Because if, let's say, you're the primary breadwinner and your term insurance for the 30-year is $100,000, and then your mortgage is $500,000, and something happens to you, can your spouse replace the income necessary to pay for the $400,000 that's left over, right? So it's important to have adequate coverage and understanding what the plan does, what the plan is for. So you can have multiple life insurance plans for different purposes. A lot of investors actually, anytime they buy a house with 30-year mortgage, whatever the case may be, they buy a term insurance to cover that particular house. So that way, in case something happens, that house is taken care of. In case this house, has something happen and the person is sick or something and they can't pay for the mortgage, the living benefits can use that to pay for it. So it's a lot of cool things that you can do in combination. And then once you learn the deeper mechanics of it, with working with the right lenders, you can do things like mortgage acceleration, mortgage protection, and a bunch of different really cool things.
Yeah, so it seems like you're more of a consultant rather than just like, I'm going to sell you insurance kind of guy.
Yeah,
you're like a full package.
I don't consider myself to be a life insurance salesperson. I work with retirement, I work with financial planning, estate planning. I have lawyer partners that do wills and trusts, and it's important to have a good team.
Yeah, it's a full package deal. Yeah, it's awesome.
So Phoenix is the president of ARIA this year. ARIA is the Asian Real Estate Association of America. I was the president in 2023. This is for our Silicon Valley chapter.
Yes.
We have, I think, 45 chapters nationwide.
20,000 members.
Tell us about our event happening on April 30th.
Yes. So we have an event going on April 30th. It's for anyone who's interested in investing in real estate, house flipping, and architecture design. So feel free to come by and check us out. It's during lunchtime, so we'll provide lunch and drinks, and it's sponsored by Conventus Lending.
It's going to be at Silvar. It's on Bub Road. Let me actually...
no worries.
On me. So Silvar on Bub Road. If you're interested, comment on the video. We'll drop the address. But two of the speakers are your friends.
Yes,
So-
Elisa and Brenda.
So tell us a little bit about them.
So Elisa's a house flipper and she flips about, I think, 15 houses a year. She runs Transform Real Estate. She's a coach for flipping houses. She's one of the best and you can see her all over social media and she has a ton of followers on YouTube. And my friend Brenda Chen, she works for, she's a director of Conventus Lending. So she does a lot of the hard money loan and different type of loans, short-term, midterm loans for house flipping. So she funds the houses that you're flipping and they have pretty good rates. Yeah.
So it's going to be at 10040 Bub Road in Cupertino. The two other speakers that are going to be there, April 30th, is going to be David Lee. He's a friend of mine up in the city. He's an architect. Him and his wife do a lot of architecture and design plans for people in the Bay Area, LA, and also Tahoe. And then we're also going to have Anson Ip, who's a top realtor in the Bay Area. He also has an architecture background. He doesn't practice it anymore, but he's going to share a little about what he's seeing work in the market this year. So we're going to link both of those events down below the video. Our event April 26th and then the ARIA event April 30th. But yeah, that's it for today's podcast. So we'll catch you
Thank
guys next time.
See you guys. Thanks, Billy. Thanks, Thomas.
Thank you.
Thank you.